Good evening. Thank you all for coming out. Thank you for tuning in if you're watching our live program at home. If you know someone who couldn't come out tonight or missed it or isn't watching live from home or missed parts, everything we're doing is being recorded, just like it's being live streamed right now. That live stream will turn into a recording and be available on our Hunterdon Central TV station very soon. So keep an eye open for that. That way you don't miss anything. So tonight is our 12th grade college and career planning night for the class of 2025. My name is Jen Nectarline. I am the college and career counselor here at Hunterdon Central. I'm proud to be here. This is my 17th year as college and career counselor and soon starting my 20th year in education. So that's pretty wild. I've worked with a lot of classes here. I've done this role here all my time here. So it's like my 17th senior year. And we just keep going and we just keep doing it. So it's thanks. That's really nice of you. Thank you. We do it. Each year is different. It goes without saying. I mean, the college admission world is always changing. The landscape is always changing. I like to talk about that at these programs because that's the stuff. The students just want the information. They want to know how to do it, when to do it, what to do. But I do think it's important for parents who are coming from just a different generation and a different context to kind of understand a little bit about what's going on in the world of admissions so you can relate that to your own kids in ways that you think works best for them. So, and then I have students who are interested in trends too, and I know that. So we'll talk a little bit about all that. But first, our team. There's 3 counselors covering the senior team. Some of them are here. We have Caitlin Homburg, Kimberly Sweet, and Anne-Marie Taylor. They break down the whole class in alphabet order. So your students know their grade level counselor. That person is on the front line. They are working with them very closely, very directly. Caitlin joined us. This is our 2nd year. Yeah. So she's gotten to know her kids. And then, of course, Anne and Kim. It's a great team. And I work in the same hallway as them. My office is on the 11-12 campus. Our counselors rotate around, but we're all very close in the 11th and 12th grade year. So we are just door to door apart, working very closely throughout the day, students bouncing between our offices. It's a good flow. All right, so if you are comfortable and checking in at home and you can hear us, that's good. There is a link that's going to be at the bottom of every single slide, hopefully. It's just a shortened bit.ly link, bit.ly/HCRHS question. That we designed this for you to, if you're at home, even if you're in the audience and you don't want to ask a question at the end when we open up for Q&A, this is a place you can go. Just type this into the browser on your phone or device or computer if you're at home, and you can just ask a question. It's just a 1-line Google form and pop a question in. That way we can get to the questions for the people that are watching from home and even the people here. But probably about 7:50, I'm going to aim to stop the kind of content part of the night and take some of your questions. We'll wrap up and we'll get you out of here. All right? So what we're going to go over tonight, I'm going to do a review of last year's class. I think it's so important. If I had more time with our students in the groups that we're running with them this week, I would do this because I think that history is really important. I think it impacts the class in a lot of different ways, so I'll share it with you. We'll talk a little bit about some of the trends that are impacting college admissions this year and how they're going to impact our applicants, and then we're going to get into it. What I've been doing with our students all day, today, tomorrow, and Thursday, we're going to go over our process of how to apply, all the little nuts and bolts. I'm not going to go over it in the depth and detail that we're going over it with the students, and there's a reason. We'll talk about that, but we're going to just kind of give you a summary of it, and then we'll talk about some other themes, things you can do to support your kids or whoever you're here representing tonight, how you can support them in the process, a couple different pathways outside of four-year college. If you're here tonight and not really sure if your student's going to definitely do four-year college, maybe it's community college, maybe it's not a college pathway, we're going to talk about that and some of the programming we're doing. A little bit about athletics, couple reminders, and we'll close out with a little bit about financial aid. But just know that a financial aid night is coming next month. All right? Again, those of you watching from home, we have a link at the bottom if you'd like to submit any questions for the end. So I'm going to start right here. I think that this is really important data. I'm going to show you what we put together. I put something like this together at the end of every year, and we spend quite a bit of time. I spend quite a bit of time when I'm here in the summer on some of my summer work days kind of poring over data because I do think it's important. So I want to explain what you're seeing here. This is our senior class that that finished in June, graduated. The number, I think, is always changing. It's graduates, we try to capture that exact number in June, but you have some students who may finish up courses in the summer and things like that. So we hovered right around 650 graduates. This right here is a summary of our outcomes, our overall percentage. And I think this is important. And it's transparent. This is information on our school profile. People are very curious about where our graduates are going. So we had 67% of our class pursue four-year college. That's a number that since I've been here over my 17 years hasn't changed considerably, but did take a slight decline over this past year. It's still over 430 students. There's still a lot of students in the class pursuing four-year college, giving us a lot of information and data to look at to best support the next classes. But that was a slight decline for us. What held steady was our two-year college rate, which has always fallen usually between 18 and 20%. So that's a good number of our students considering two-year college as a place to start, and the vast majority of them are going to RVCC. This is what has changed, is our other percent. Other including things like going right into the workforce, trade and technical school, militaries, apprenticeships, studying different things under people, or not really even being sure. Like I don't have an exact plan. I think I'm going to work part-time, maybe take a class, maybe do some travel. So this was the summary and the snapshot of the class, and the other percent is what's ticking up. That's what's going up here in our school community. That's a number that hovered between 8 and 10% many years ago and is going up and down, usually between 14 and 15%. So the response to that is we have to make sure those students, we have supports in place for those students, that we have programming throughout senior year, even touching into junior year, to help those students who are not college bound, not 2-year, not 4-year, but they need help. They need resources. They need someone to help them go into the job market, get connected with a military recruiter, determine what trades are out there, what's going on in the job outlook. So we're implementing some new programming this week. I'll talk about that near the end. But in November, we're actually devoting an entire week to this programming, and we're going to bring a couple new things in. It's all stuff we've done before, but we've kind of had it happening throughout the late fall, early winter. And I feel like some things got missed, and some opportunities for students to engage with these people got missed. We're going to pack it all into a week to try to theme it up and really build it up so that students know, hey, there's people here that I can talk to about different pathways. So it's going to be called Post-High Schools Pathways Week, and it's going to be November 18th through 22nd. So it's a good time as we kind of get through the big rush of college applications. They'll still be going on, but we get through the big rush, we can start working with our students. And then if all goes well, we're going to repeat that programming again in the spring. Capture our seniors who maybe really missed out in the fall, still weren't sure. We want to catch them before they graduate, and even tie in some of our juniors who are starting to look. And then this is just basic data that I run. Average unweighted and weighted GPA of our college applicants, that's slightly higher than the average GPA of the class. We filed just over 3,500 applications, with most of them falling in early action. So what is early action? That's filing an application earlier, typically with a deadline around November 1st, although it can be October 15th or it could be November 15th, but the average is about November 1st. So when students reach out to their counselors and say, I need your help right away, I have a November 1st deadline, the vast majority of our students are filing at least 11-1 deadline. So the volume of work that's going to be accomplished by the counselors in our department between now and November 1st is pretty significant. So know that if your child is falling in the early action or has at least one early action application, most of their classmates do as well. Early action advantage, you apply earlier, you get a result earlier. That result could be an acceptance, which is a great feeling because you're getting that back usually in December or January, and it's nice at the midpoint of senior year to have an idea, hey, I got into a school. The result could be a deny. What is becoming a more popular result, though, is a deferral. Deferral means the school, the college, has chosen to defer your application from early action to regular decision. So they're going to give your application another look in the spring and then release a decision by the end of March. And then, of course, after that, A lot of our students filing regular decision applications. Regular decision deadlines usually fall in January or February. Rolling admission is a little bit different. And I do have a slide on this, but I may as well just fit it in now. Rolling admission is like a rolling ball. As applications come in, completed applications, they're reviewed and decisions go out. So we are working on rolling admission right now, and we are working on our first round of early action, which is October 15th deadlines. Those are the top priorities in our counseling department, and that's what we're making clear to our seniors this week in our group sessions, is that's what we're going to be working on. We do have a handful of seniors who choose to apply to a college early decision. You can apply to one college early decision. That is a binding commitment. So if admitted early decision, you are committed to attending. Last year, we had just over 50 students in the class do that. And I anticipate with this senior class being just under 600, we're probably going to see somewhere in the high 30s or 40s. And we know a handful already who are planning to do that. Early decision 2 is the same thing, binding commitment. The date is just a little bit later. And then we have another program, restrictive early action. So few students doing it, and it is just that, is restrictive early action. And usually it's maybe 5 or 6 Ivy League schools offering that. The average number of applications per student dropped a little bit too. It had hovered about 9.5. I don't know what a half application is, but that's what the data tells me for the vast majority of my years here. When I first started, it was in the double digits. Not long after, it fell under 10, and it had been 9.5-ish for a long time. And for the first time, it fell to almost a whole 8. And that's fine. I'm fine with that. We have students, 8 is a really comfortable number. It gives students a couple probables, a couple targets, and a couple reaches. There are going to be seniors with 6, and there are going to be seniors with 26. And that's okay. That's a lot of work, and we want to talk to those seniors, but 8 is a comfortable number. To me, I'm like, why isn't it 10 or 11? That's what I feel like I always see on students' lists, but that's where we were. We had over 400 schools across the globe, so not just the U.S., Canada, across the pond. I mean, we sent students international last year receiving applications from us. So that's a Hunterdon Central application in over 400 admission offices. If you kind of think about that, that's us putting our mark out there in a lot of places, and that's good. You know, when a college gets a Hunterdon Central application, they look at our transcript, our applicants, what we're all about, our school profile, and the more a college gets that, the more they get to know us. So that's a good thing. We want the context of what our school is all about to be in front of as many colleges as possible. So the kids spread their wings when they apply, but when it comes down to it, we enrolled students at 146 schools. That number also ticked down a little bit. That had been hovering in the 160s, 170s for many years. Again, though, with our overall picture of the class changing a little bit and our 4-year college percent going down a little, we're going to certainly matriculate to less schools. But still, 146 schools. That's a lot of Hunterdon Central freshmen all over the globe, and that's a good thing. Now, this is what I get really excited about, is making these charts. I don't love numbers. I was at a psych undergrad, school counseling master's, but this is the data that really gets me going, and these guys know they pick on me about it, but I like it. This is our breakdown of where our kids went for 4-year schools last year. This is not terribly different. I'm going to highlight a few things. Our number one, not 4-year schools, all schools, because our number one school where we sent students was RVCC. Now, this number can be a little bit off. Of course, RVCC always has a 100% admit rate, but I don't know if that 47's right, because, you know, these kids leave us in June, and then things change in the summer. Kids may join in, you know, apply part-time, full-time, so that number can certainly fluctuate. But outside of that, when we start to talk about 4-year colleges, Rutgers remains our number one, okay? When I, again, first started here, trends changing. We were sending over 50 students a year to Rutgers, but we also had a class of over 800. So 29 still our highest, but really close behind is TCNJ. That's a huge number for TCNJ. Usually we're in the teens. Couple things with Rutgers last year. Rutgers University last year joined the Common Application. So this is its second full cycle using the Common App. And when you join the Common App, you make it easier for students to apply. So what did Rutgers University get in the fall of 2023? A huge uptick in applications. So they became more selective. The type of students that typically would have been admitted perhaps were waitlisted, deferred, or eventually not admitted. And so it was an interesting year with Rutgers. Our admit rate has not always been 57%. It's been higher, but it's going down. Rutgers University is no longer, this probable place for students to get in. So I'm being really transparent with students that I meet with about their chances with Rutgers University and at New Brunswick, and also making sure they understand that there are Rutgers options in state that are not at New Brunswick, that you could look at the Camden or Newark campus. Newark is growing in popularity. They visited us this week. We had several students interested in seeing them, and that there's other options here in New Jersey for a state school like TCNJ. TCNJ, we've just continued to have a great relationship, and I think a lot of the students who wanted to stay in state and wanted a public institution and ended up not being admitted to Rutgers went to TCNJ, and they're happy. I mean, they're two very different institutions. If you know New Jersey colleges, they're very different, but they're very happy at TCNJ. This was an uptick for us, JMU in Harrisonburg, Virginia. That's a great school. We've sent a lot of kids there over the years. That went up to 15, but always has been fairly high. Rowan, another really fantastic in-state option with 14, Montclair with 13. So the students are looking in state. They're looking at value. They're thinking about having a good in-state option. And then it goes down, UDEL, Virginia Tech, and then there's a few outliers like Moravian, small private school just over the border in Pennsylvania, getting 8 of our students. Nothing else here really jumps out. We consistently send students to the southern universities. I think the one that probably jumps out the most here would be UMass Amherst. That's a school maybe 2 or 3 a year, but we jumped to 7 last year. Moving down, Pitt, URI, Temple, NYU got 5, Elon got 5. That was a nice little jump there. We haven't sent 5 there in a while. So that's who got 5 or more. And then I think it's still important to look at where we're sending 3 to 4 students a year. I mean, you're a class of over 600, but still 3 or 4 of your classmates going to the same institution is a big deal. And there's that one at the top where you're thinking, wow, how'd Penn State get down there? Usually they're in the double digits. Again, things ebb and flow each year. So we went down a little bit there, but maintained at a lot of the other schools that typically get our students, Maryland, Purdue, Stevens. Just taking a look here, 4 going down to LSU in Louisiana. So that hasn't been like that before. But these trends are definitely important. I'm just seeing if there's anything else that jumps out. Tennessee continues to be popular. Again, a lot of names that are probably very familiar to you. But when I go back up to the top and I look at some of these numbers, there's a lot of consistency. But, sending 8 students to Virginia Tech, like that's a good thing. And I would think any institution that's getting 8 students from one high school that's outside of their state is looking at that and going, okay, well, let's see our next 60 or 70 apps, and maybe they'll admit a little bit more because they know when Central kids are admitted, they're coming. So that trend, that history impacts the next few classes. And that's that. So, and then here's just a full list. This is all those 146 schools that got one of our students last year, and it's all over. It's all over the place. So that is our snapshot of the year. I think it's really important. It's always tricky to anticipate what the next year might look like, but I think we're hearing a lot of the same names. I'm already underway meeting with students. All of us are, and you start to hear the same names, and it's just kind of fun at the end to see how it all goes. So on top of looking at the past year, I think it's important to look at what's trending this year. These trends are not overly different than anything you might have heard about if you're someone who enjoys reading about higher education or in the media. There was a whole lot going on last year with the FAFSA, the free application for federal student aid, things that made CNN headlines. So this is what I think's happening. We know we have this decline in high school graduates, so we know we're going to have it in college enrollment. I'm seeing, I read several articles this summer just about the growing number of colleges that are closing, and not schools that we're all talking about, not schools we're seeing on these lists, small schools that have consistently had trouble staying open. They might be closing for good. They might be being bought out. They might be merging because they can't survive. When you're bringing in a freshman class of 250 and you're an institution, a higher ed institution of 1,000, you got to be really hanging on with a strong brand name in this market right now when you just have less and less students to choose from. It's interesting, though, because we see less students. We know here at Central we have less students, and everybody has less students, but the apps are going up. Why are the applications going up? Well, a couple things. When we, post-pandemic, we're still very much in a world of test optional admissions. In spring of 2020, just about every college in America. There were ones who didn't, had to go test optional when you couldn't test in the 2020 year. And some have pulled back and said, okay, that was good for a year or two, but we're going to start taking test scores again. So send us your SATs and ACTs. But several schools have remained test optional. So what that means is students who've always, haven't tested well, they go into this SAT, they panic, or the ACT, they panic, their anxiety comes over them, and a Saturday morning is not going to determine their fate. They are better off in many cases not submitting their scores. So in that case, they may do really well on paper. Their transcript is strong, their courses are strong, but they don't test well. It's like, let me just apply and see what happens. They're test optional. But that idea spreads. And more apply because they realize, well, I'm not a great test taker, and so are 30,000 other people. So let's all just apply. Let's all apply to these Ivy League schools and see what happens. And apps are just going up. So even though we don't have more students applying, they tend to apply to more. Now our number went down, but that's us. But across the board, if you look at any college's profile of the last admission cycle, they had an uptick in applications. We had a 10% increase, a 20% increase. When you have an increase in applications and your dorms aren't growing overnight, you can't do anything more than to deny more students. You're just suddenly more selective. Rutgers was an example. Rutgers joined the Common App. They had a huge uptick in applications. You can't just create space in dorms and residence halls and classrooms overnight for all of those students, so you have no choice but to deny more students. So test optional admissions has increased opportunity for students to apply to a wider array of schools. A wider range of students are applying, and it just makes it more selective. I think this is going to taper off in another year or two. I'm really anxious to see what happens this year because even some of the brand names, even some of the, I talk to admission deans and directors and VPs of enrollment at institutions all the time, and they're like, Jen, I'm a little nervous. They're like, I don't know, we're solid, we've got a good reputation, we're in the rankings, we got the big D1 sports, but we are nervous for what the next couple years are going to bring when we know there's just simply less students graduating high school. So how that's going to impact admissions, to be determined. Still here at Central, we're going to encourage a healthy, balanced list. We're going to encourage students to have probables, to have schools on their list that they love, so that come spring, they can make a good decision. And again, with the applications up, selectivity rates, they're not outrageous. There's nothing that surprised me terribly from the outcomes this past spring. I think the right students got into the right schools. There's a couple times where I looked and I was really surprised. A student was admitted and I thought it was a reach. And then there was the reverse. A student who I thought had a really great shot at a really selective school was just straight denied. So that happens. It's going to happen every year, but nothing crazy. I don't know if we were completely ready for what our state university, I don't even know if they were completely ready for the uptick in apps, but we had some pretty tough conversations in the spring with students who wanted to be at our state university. That was their goal through all of high school, and it didn't work out. So we had some tough conversations, made some tough calls. Some of those students might be transferring. It should be interesting to see what happens with Rutgers' transfer population for students who ultimately want to be there but couldn't get there for freshman year. And then cost is crazy. There's nothing else I can really say. The amount of schools over $80,000 and $90,000 a year is getting downright scary. We're saying this in all of our college planning groups that we're holding with the seniors this week. Please consider at least one New Jersey state school. And a bunch of them go, I want to get out of here. That's my mom staying in New Jersey. And I'm sure you've had those conversations too. We have really fantastic options here. We have our state university, comparable price to Rutgers, TCNJ, Rowan, Montclair, Kane, Stockton. We are loaded with great public universities here in New Jersey, all hovering around the same price tag. I'm not going to force a student to put one of those on, and I don't want them to put it on their list because I said so and they have absolutely no intention of going there. But if you can help this, and I'm sure you can because you're behind, you get it with the cost conversation, is I don't want it to be March or April, and they've gotten all these acceptances, they did all the good work, and the average cost of those schools is between $60,000 and $70,000 a year, and they got this much money in aid, and they're still at $50K, and then the tough conversation happens at home with, we can't afford any of these. Where was your public school? Where was your good value school? And they're going, I don't have one. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a New Jersey state school, but it's got to be a public university that's going to award them in a way that becomes doable for your family. In New Jersey, though, when they stay here, they got potential state aid, state grants coming at them that they lose. They lose when they leave. So you can see from the data, we absolutely have students staying here for their college education and pursuing options right here in state. And then, there were students who changed their minds. I mean, we had all these college applicants. The vast majority of them went. I can run data on the percent of the class that applied and the percent of the class that actually went to college. It was different by under 2%. But that tells me there were students who applied to college and ended up choosing an alternate pathway. They said, I'm going to work, I'm going to take a year off, maybe a gap year, maybe I'll pursue community college. But the rate of students that applied to four-year was just higher than what actually went. So there were students at the end who said, this is just not affordable. I can't do this. I didn't get what I thought I was going to get. I'm going to give it 6 to 12 months and try again. So this is what we're seeing. And I think it's going to be a year it'll be interesting, though, because we do have a little bit of a smaller class, the smallest class I've ever worked with here. I'll be interested to see if they end up applying to more than 8 schools on average, because that was probably one of the stats that surprised me the most from last year. And we'll see. We'll see what the spring brings. I don't have a magic ball. I wish I did. Students always tell me, so what do you really think, Mrs. Nectarline? Do you think? I go, I'm just going to categorize a school for you. It's a probable, it's a target, it's a reach. We don't have that crystal ball, though. So we'll see how the year goes. All right. So we're going to move into some other topics. Again, if you are tuning in from home, at the bottom of every single slide, there is a little shortened bit.ly link where you can type it into your phone, your browser, and throw a question, and we'll get to all of the questions at the end. All right. So this is it. Now, I've mentioned a few times about meeting your students this week. So when you got the email for this program tonight, you might have noticed there was a line in there mentioning that the senior team, Kim, Ann, Caitlin, and I, and Mariana Cordova, who works with our multi-language learners in the senior class, we are meeting with the entire senior class in group sessions this week. We started today. I think I've been talking nonstop since about 7:45. It's been a day. We're running 3 blocks a day, 3 today, 3 tomorrow, 3 Thursday. That allowed seniors 9 time options to come sit through our presentation. I see a couple of you out there. But that allowed them 9 options. We like to give seniors some choice, to say, hey, look, we don't want you missing your whole 80-minute block of math, but you have the schedule. I send the schedule out to them. Pick the class where you're going to have the least disruption. So we saw over 150, almost 200 seniors today. And they know that these sessions we're running this week are solely focused on the 4-year college process. So we also tell them not only pick the time that's best for you to come, they're getting passes, don't worry, but some of them are moving their time around, and that's fine. But we also tell them self-select. Do you plan to go to 4-year college? Are you still thinking about it? Then come. But if you know that you are absolutely not pursuing 4-year college after Hunterdon Central, you are definitely working, definitely going to the military, definitely doing something else, you don't have to sit through this 80-minute session because it's very detailed. We're going through the process and the procedures of applying, and their time is far better spent in the classroom. We also tell them there's programming coming, like I mentioned earlier, our Pathways Week in November that's designed for those students to give them opportunities to learn more. So we spend a full block with a couple reminders to our seniors, and then we dive right into this process of how to actually apply to college. And we go over step by step, screen by screen, and tell them exactly what they have to do. I'm going to show you all tonight what it looks like. I'm not going to go into each step. I'm going to kind of summarize it, but I have to back up because the question I get from parents who are feeling a little overwhelmed right now, especially if you've been through this, you're going through this for the first time, or it's been a few years, is we just don't know where to start. So I want to go back to some of our programming that we did prior to this. So we have a college planning night in junior year. Back in January we held. And then we have a program in 9th and 10th grade called Early College Planning Night. Those programs were designed to help your students and help you build this process up, start researching, getting to know colleges. That by the time we get here, we're not spending a whole lot of time on that because most seniors are coming back into senior year with at least a short list developed, okay? That short list might be hanging out in their head. It might be on a spreadsheet you've made. It might be somewhere. But that's where we want them, to have a short working list of colleges so they can start diving into the next steps. So organization is key, okay? Today, and I'll show you my who's responsible for what chart. Part of your responsibility I put under the parents is if you are organized or any more organized than your child, you can help here, okay? Because some of our students, like, what do they say? What do you mean, get organized? I've never really been organized. You should see my bedroom. Like, that's okay. We get that at 17 and 18, but this is where you might be able to come in and say, hey, look, let's just get a chart. I'll make it for you. I'll put it out. You're going to fill it in because this is your process. Or, you know what, I'll start a spreadsheet for us that we can work in together. But that's a good place for you to help. But organization is key. So what is organization? It's looking at the college list. It's figuring out the deadlines. That right there is an excellent starting point. Let's say you got 3 or 4 schools at home. That's what you're working with right now. There might be more, or maybe you got 25. I don't know. But you've got to get those somewhere. This is what we're telling the students. This is what we'll tell the parents. You have to get them somewhere aligned with a deadline date. And that right there is an excellent starting point. And you will see after that, things will actually start to fall in place because now you know, okay, what school are we focusing on first? Well, we have October 15th deadline. University of South Carolina, okay, this is our first priority. So just when you know what has to happen when, that tends to get the ball rolling. Maybe your student has a rolling admissions school. Okay, so that's a school that Mrs. Nectarline said the sooner we apply, the better. So we're going to actually bump that one up before October 15th. So this level of organization is what's going to keep things together, okay? And I'm going to bring up this document to show you a few other things so you understand what else has to happen, okay? So organizing the list, organizing the deadline dates. What's also helpful in doing that is determining which admission plan your student's going to follow with them. So are they doing early action? If the deadline date's October 15th, November 1st, somewhere around there, it's likely early action. Are they going to hold off? Are they really busy this fall? And they don't need to be doing early action. They can apply to all of their colleges in the winter. Maybe they're a fall athlete. Maybe they're busy. Maybe you've got other things going on in your family right now. And they're better off applying in January because maybe they're taking the SATs in December. Whatever works. They do not have to do early action. It is common, it is popular, but it doesn't mean you have to do it. You can still be a very successful college applicant applying to all of your colleges in January. So we are making that very clear to the students. It's whatever works in your life right now, okay? And this is where it's hard to like drown out the noise of what all their friends are doing. They have to do what works for them because everyone's individual, everyone's got different things going on. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and open up this document. So this document is going to make its way onto our website this week, but this is kind of what's getting us through our group sessions, and it's a good 6 or 7 pages. I told the students, when you get this document from me, I'm gonna send it to the whole senior class on Thursday when we're completely done with all of our groups. I said, I think it's probably a good idea that you bookmark it because this is it. Like everything is in here. I packed it all into one place. There's no reason to have a lot of different things. Everything is in here. So we have an 8-step process. Okay, so you're probably thinking, 8 steps. My students, 8 steps. We lay it out for them, step by step by step by step, how to do this. Okay, it's very organized for them. 8-step process, visuals, bold, highlighted, everything. We also have a couple charts that we think help them. When we show these charts in our groups, they all kind of go, oh, okay, now it's making some sense. We have a couple charts, and then we have a whole section at the end of this document for frequently asked questions. And we say, before you ping your counselor or your Mrs. N, look at these FAQs. Is your question answered in here? Because these are the questions we are constantly getting in our email. And we tell them, we want you to email. You got to reach out. You got to use your resources. But when you're asking the same questions that we've gone over in groups, that makes it difficult for us to get to everybody. So please check the document. Please look at the procedures, read through it, take some time with it, and chances are your question is answered in there, okay? So let me go back up to the top. I'm not going to go through line by line, but I am going through line by line with your kids. Our 8-step process is broken into 3 chunks. Steps 1 through 3 are our prep steps. I tell them, you can't do step 4, they all want to, until you do 1 through 3. And if you don't do 1 through 3 and you dive into 4, because some do, they're so excited to request everything, then it's not going to work right. and they will still do it. It drives us a little bit crazy, but please encourage them to move in the correct order. So you got to prepare. You have to have everything prepped before you actually go in to the process of requesting your documents here at Central. And you have to also understand what's happening while I'm doing that. Do I still apply? Like, when do I apply? What's my counselor doing? How does it all work? Okay. And then step 7 and 8 is confirming and tracking. Let me just go a little bit into the prep steps. Students have to be organized. They've got to have their college list in SCORE in a following tab. And I know some of you are probably thinking, what in the world is she talking about SCORE? SCORE is our college and career software program. Every senior has an account. They are actively using it. Oh, that's my school account. Let me log into my student account. So they got this account a couple years ago. This is everything that we're doing college. Their list is in here, everything they need to do, the schools they're following and applying to, all of that. So all we want them to do, and we've been talking about this since junior year, is have an updated list of schools in SCORE in the following column. That's it. That's all they need to be doing right now. That's the only column they need to be working with, okay? And this is the point. This happens in every group. I end up with too many tabs open. All right. So organizing their list, making sure they have a good balance. We tell them there are 3 ways to, I'm going to get to that in a second. Balance, spreadsheet, make sure they know their application deadline, if they're applying test optional, that's it. And consider a Jersey State school. That's their list. So then I say in groups, how many of you have step 1, like you've been doing step 1? Most of the hands go up. They're like, okay, so I've got a list underway. The list is not definite. The list is not, today is the list and the list is not changing. You've got to let your college list be fluid, because so many kids are going to apply to college as early action. They're going to get results back in December, and they're going to realize, oh, this isn't going quite the way I thought it would. I'm getting deferred to a lot of places. I should probably add on another school or 2. Okay, so now the list just changed. So let the list be fluid. Yes, there's a core list that you're going to push applications out to, but you've got to be understanding that there might be schools that naturally fall off the list because maybe you like what you got in early action, or there might be additions, okay? Step 2 is working on applications, and the key is working on them over time. Applications are not a let's sit down on a Tuesday night and get this thing done and submit it. They've got to work on them over time, okay? They can work on them all the way up to when they're due. If the application deadline date is November 1st, they can submit it at 11:59 p.m. on November 1st. That's on them. We are not part of the actual application submission, but they've got to create their application accounts and get working on them. There's 3 ways to apply to college: through the Common App, which is how we want all of them use it. We want them using the Common App as much as possible. There's some schools that don't take the Common App. They're MIT, Georgetown, University of California system, service academies, not too many, but there's a few out there. They have to go on those websites and make those application accounts. And then there's a 3rd way to apply to college, and that's called Apply with SCORE. When they're in their SCORE account, they'll see some of these colleges have a little button called Start App. That means you're actually going to fill out the application in SCORE. It's SCORE's application. It's there as an option, but they're going to hear me this week say, our preference is that you use Common App. Why would you start a whole other application in SCORE when you've been working so hard on your Common App? Okay, so let's jump back to that, and I want to highlight one thing. We have a comprehensive Common App guide. There are Common App guides all over the internet. There are videos, there are tutorials, there's webinars, there's all these third-party people out there who make Common App guides. And of course, Common App has their own help. This is ours. And this is aligned with exactly how they need to be answering questions as a Hunterdon Central senior. It takes them section by section by section and tells them exactly how to answer the questions. There's a whole section in here on how to do the activities section. The activities section of Common App is pretty important. Most of the other parts of the Common App are kind of boring. It's your basic information. Here's my background and my demographics, and here's my courses I'm taking. But now we get into the activities, we start to learn who the student is. We see what they're doing outside the classroom. What makes them, what makes them happy? How do they fill their time when they're not in school? This section is very important. So I ran 4 Common App workshops this summer. I saw about 150 seniors in those workshops. We spent 45 minutes on this. This is a big, big part of a 2-hour workshop. This is a big part. And then it goes through all the sections. You can see, extremely important. After almost 20 years in education, you got to be really picky about what you bold and what you highlight. So bolding and highlighting is part of my packets, and they got to read it. They've got to read it. So we know a lot of our seniors are using this Common App guide. Please encourage it. And I told them today, I said, if you're filling out the Common App without the guide, you're doing it wrong. You are doing it wrong. What stands between you and your admission decision, your outcome, in or not, is your Common App. So don't you want to do it well? Don't you want to make it look its best and take the advice from people who know what makes a strong Common App? So we're surprised when students come in and say, hey, can you look over my activity section? I can tell right away if they use the guide or not, because there's a very strategic way to talk about your activities to make them shine, and we can tell right away if they're not using the guide. All right, so that's applications. And then the third prep step, third of 3, is just signing their FERPA waiver. So when students log into SCORE, the pop-up comes up for them to sign their FERPA waiver. If they're concerned, I don't see the pop-up, they just got to read the instructions. Okay, we talk about if you don't see it, here's why. You got to log out and log back in. It's a pop-up. A lot of seniors have done it. The FERPA, the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act release and waiver, there's 2 things they're gonna grant. They're gonna grant permission for Hunterdon Central to send their official documents to colleges. So they're gonna click grant there. And then there's a FERPA waiver where they're gonna grant the waiver of their rights to see their letters of recommendation. And that's their way of saying, I'm okay, colleges, with not seeing my letters of recommendation. So they're going to click grant there. Grant and submit, and that's it, and that's done. So steps 1 through 3, you might be sitting here if you're involved in this process with your child and thinking, well, we're doing okay. We got a list, we got a Common App started. Yes, you're in a really good place. If you don't have those things yet, a list is still evolving, you're not sure if your child started their Common App, that's a conversation to have, because at this point, with the amount we've been talking about this since the spring with them, we really want them to be at this point. Okay, so I have a couple sections of my document. Stop here and read. I'm not going to go into detail. I just encourage them to read them. Say, if Mrs. N's got that on that sheet, there's a reason. She's got bullets there and highlights. You got to read this. Let's see what this means, okay? Steps 4, 5, and 6, okay? This is the stuff they're excited about because that's what they're emailing us about and have been emailing us about all summer. I need my transcripts. I need my teacher letters. I need my counselor letter because I'm doing everything on my end, so I need those things. And yes, they do. They need those things to have a complete application. We are just about to embark on that process where they can begin requesting those items. We do not allow requesting until we teach them all how to do it, because it would be absolute chaos if I just turned on requesting and didn't teach hundreds and hundreds of students how to do it correctly. I only know that from experience. So we nipped that in the bud many, many years ago and said, we're not going to turn on requesting till we get in front of them and show them how to do it, and has enhanced and neatened up our process so much. So when does requesting begin? Requesting begins this Thursday at 2:15. That's the end of the school day, and that's when our seniors can go in and start making all of their requests. Requesting happens in a couple different phases. Step 4 of our process, the first part of requesting, is where they're actually going to request their transcript and their counselor's letter. Okay, so the counselor recommendation, which they would have done a brag sheet for, and you might remember that because there was a parent part of the brag sheets. Those have been out since January to when they were juniors. So the counselor letter and the transcript always go together. They're like a bundle, okay? They're learning in groups how to request those. It's pretty simple. It's a movement where they move their schools. When they move them to applying, they get pop-up screens that say, okay, how are you applying? What deadline date are you following? The screens are so easy. This is what we love about SCORE. It's so user-friendly to an 18-year-old. Like, okay, this makes sense. I'm applying through the Common App. I'm applying regular decision. I'm going test optional. Here's the email address I use for my application, save. Okay, that school just got put into their applying column, which means, going back to our procedures, they just requested their transcript and counselor letter. So that movement is the request, okay? That movement can't happen until Thursday. Okay, so that is requesting. That's all you have to do. There's no button. There's no request transcript. That's what they have to do. So if you are sitting with them, you might say, okay, read those instructions. We ask that you don't do it for them. but if you want to be there when they do it, that's fine, okay? This is very doable for them. So there's a couple notes in here, what the request, the movement all means, what's gonna happen next. And then we get into teacher recommendations, which is another part of SCORE, okay? And again, you're like, what is this SCORE thing? It looks like Squire, it's SCORE. Your students know. They've had their account for several years. Teacher recommendation requesting happens up here in the application documents screen. It's all laid out on the document, on the procedures, and they're gonna see a little button appear right here by letters of recommendation on Thursday afternoon. It's gonna say add request or new request. And they've got step by step by step exactly where to click, okay? And I say this to them, I go, guys, you could walk out of this where we meet down on 1112 with them in the little theater. I say, if you walk out this door right now, if you paid attention to nothing I said, this document would get you through it. The key is you have to read it. You've got to read every line, and it's hard. I get it. They are so inundated with emails and all the things a 17 and 18-year-old are inundated with. I get it. However, I say, raise your hand if you've ever applied to college before. No hands go up. I say, you have to learn how to do this. You have to do it correctly because this is your future in the screen. Okay, we're not filling out applications anymore and sending them in with a postage stamp. It's all happening on a computer. I say you have to read the instructions. So if there's a place you can support them, it's by saying, hey, Mrs. N designed this process for you, step by step, just follow it. Just follow it as is. You can't mess it up. Okay? The students who get stressed out, really stressed, panicked emails to us, come to you really upset, are skipping around because this process has been in place for years here. It works. So please help us encourage them to read it. We have screenshots of exactly what they're going to see when they make the teacher request, and that's it. Now, the really nice thing is they can track everything that they've requested right in SCORE. They can see when the transcripts got uploaded and sent to the colleges by college. They can see when the counselor's letter got sent. They can see when the teacher's letters got sent. So they don't need to reach out to their teachers and counselors, hey, did you get it done? It's all trackable in SCORE. You can log in. If you're like, I want this SCORE thing too, just ask them for their login. Say, you know what, rather than me bother you about college, can I take a look at SCORE? Can I see what's going on in there? But please don't do the actions for them. But if you want to log in, see what's going on that end too, that's fine. I have another little stop here and read. And then we get into the last thing they need to request. This part actually has nothing to do with Central. This is the request of their test scores, okay? So they need to have official test scores sent to their colleges if they are applying with scores. So if they're applying with their SATs or ACTs, official score reports need to be sent directly from College Board to the college or from ACT to the college, depending on what they're doing. So we tell them it is about $15 per college. So if you're applying to 10 schools, that's going to add up on top of the fact that all of your colleges have application fees, which could be $75 a college. This adds up. I said, here's a way to save money. Actually, I gave them a couple ways to save money today. I enjoy doing that myself. Check with your colleges. Go to the website, Google search, University of Delaware official score reports or University of Delaware admission requirements. Get yourself to the admission page. Does that college require official score reports? Okay, if they say, no, you can just self-report your scores on your Common App, you just save $15. So I said, just do the legwork. And this is a part where a parent could come in. Again, you're not doing the process for them, but you're doing a little bit of the back-end research just to take something off their plate, okay? The other thing I mentioned today, too, is about those application fees, like actually applying to college. 10, 12 schools, even 8 schools, those application fees can range from $25 to $75. It can add up very fast. There are absolutely students who are going to be eligible for fee waivers. We talked about how to do that in SCORE, how to apply for that. And your counselor will help determine your eligibility. But as you're visiting colleges or when your students are visiting with the college reps who come to Central, I'll talk about that before we're done tonight, ask. Say, you have a fee waiver? You got a fee waiver code? I'm really interested in your school, but it's tough coming up with all these application fees. I really want to apply. They might just hand it right to them, okay? So that is our requesting phase, and then we get into the final part. When they officially apply to colleges, they're going to just keep moving them. They're going to move them over to applied. Right now I'm getting a red alert because things aren't turned on. They will be Thursday. But how exciting. I applied to Florida State. I'm done. We're going to move it to the applied column. That is solely an organizational step. That does not impact their application. That's happening over in Common App. This is just here to say, hey, it's submitted. And then the counselors can see on the back end how our students are actually doing with their submissions. And then the tracking and practicing patience. It's tough. I know they're looking at these screens. There's a SCORE app, so a lot of kids run around their phones. Look at the app. Look at the app. It hasn't been sent. I go, it's going to get sent. Your stuff's going to get sent. Your teachers are working diligently. Your counselors are working diligently. Those are the people that are responsible for the sending. It will get submitted. Just be patient. So how to track everything is right there, okay? All right, I'm going to show you this chart, responsibilities by person, and I kind of said jokingly, I said, there it is, clear as day, guys. As I said to the students, you have the most responsibilities in this process. So what is the student responsible for in their college process? They're responsible for their application. They are the ones who are submitting it. Applications are not coming through Hunterdon Central, okay? So we've had a couple students and parents reach out. So when are you going to sit with me and help me submit my apps? That is not something we are going to sit with the students and do. That's something they're going to do on their own time. We've provided a comprehensive Common App guide, been talking about college process for 9 months now. They are ready to do these applications, take control of that, and submit them, okay? So they're responsible for their application and anything that goes with it. They are responsible for moving those colleges from following to applying, which is making their requests, from applying to applied, telling us they've applied. These are just cursor moves. They're responsible for requesting their teacher recommendations, brag sheets, and sending their test scores. All things they've heard about before. Okay, nothing new. And a lot of these are just basic computer actions, okay? The counselor is responsible for submitting the transcripts, so submitting an official school transcript to every college. The counselor recommendation, they will complete it and submit it, and any required school report forms. There's a couple little forms our counselors have to fill out in SCORE. The students can't even see them. They're on our end. That just tell a little bit about our school and kind of summarize things. That gets kind of attached in with every transcript. So they do that. Teachers are responsible for receiving those recommendation requests, completing them, and submitting them. All of our teachers have a SCORE account too. So when the students go in and make that teacher request, the teacher gets it, they upload their letter, they send it to all the colleges on that student's list. And then parents. Most of our parents typically do take over in the financial aid process. We'll talk about that at the end, but that's where we typically see our parents. Support in getting and staying organized, Can I help you make that chart? Can I help you go through this mail? Can I help you with your inbox, getting organized? And then check-ins, okay? Just gently reminding them, checking in. Years and years ago, one of my colleagues here in the department, Julie Blake, she's been through this process with her own kids, and she just has so much real-life great advice. And she said it over a decade ago, and I'll never forget it, and I've stolen it from her. Is suggesting to families, and it makes so much sense, to pick one time a week, maybe two. It just depends on your family dynamic. I don't know that you're going to talk about college, okay? Because I know that some parents are talking about college every day with their kids, and then I know some are completely hands-off. But maybe you can design a time or a space or a routine in your family that works for you, that this is the one time a week on Sundays at 3 o'clock. Okay, maybe there's football on, but perhaps another time, a football fan here, that you can find that works for your family. You can sit around the table. We're going to talk about college. We're going to put the phones away. I want your attention for this 45 minutes or this hour, and I won't bug you any other time this week about it. But you're going to come ready, show me what you got. I'm here to help you, and that's it. But this constant daily, it's going to make some of them shut down, okay, and it's going to make them not get the work done. And we do ask to please let them do the work. to please let them fill out their applications. We do get calls all the time, parents at home during the workday and filling out their kids' apps and having questions. And I will be totally honest with you. We've had parents come into the process to the point where they've screwed something up for their kids. It's really important to let them do it. Be there with them, hold their hand, support them, but please give them the opportunity to take this and take ownership over it. It's been designed so that it's easy to follow. They just have to read the instructions. But sometimes that parent involvement, they get too far in and they might make a glitch somewhere that we can't always reverse and fix. So be there with them, but we ask you to not do it for them. So this green chart helped a lot in our groups. This is the one where I saw the light bulb going off for a lot of kids. They're like, oh, okay. So this is what a completed application is. It's 3 parts. It's things coming from 3 places. From the student, it's the application. Submission of the Common App, submission of whatever application they're using, and any of the little pieces that go with it, the essays, the application fee, portfolio, plus everything coming from the school, the counselor recommendation, the transcript, the teacher recommendations, and any of those little extra reports we do, plus the testing agency scores if they're applying with scores. Those 3 things coming from 3 places, make a completed application. Okay? This is the big key, though. And we said this over and over in our groups because this is where the students really get hung up and tend to get confused. It is very typical and very normal for all of those things to arrive to a college at different times, okay? So I'm going to break that down, and that's where a lot of that stop here and read above here talks about this, okay? Because we're having seniors come to us and go, well, you need to submit my transcripts. I can't apply yet. I go, where'd you hear that? That's not true. They can apply whenever they want. All of these things in each of these boxes can happen independently of one another, okay? They have to get into SCORE, and they've got to make those requests with the lead time we've told them. 15 school days for a transcript and counselor rec request, and 1 month in advance for a teacher request. You have to give time for that stuff to process here at Central. But once you're done requesting, it's in motion. Now you're going to go back and you're going to work on your end of it, your applications, your essays. So imagine this, everyone's doing their part at the same time, but we can't do our part here unless you trigger it. You got to request it so we know that you need it. So then we come to this green chart and they're like, oh, that's how it works. So then the hands start going up. So if you send my transcripts to my colleges before I apply, that's okay? It's perfectly fine. Or if I apply tonight and you don't send my transcripts for another month, is that okay? That's perfectly fine. It's impossible for everything to arrive at the same exact time. That's just not reality. You know, you're talking about some of these universities getting 60, 70,000 applications. Imagine the influx of electronic documents from all over the globe. It's wild, but they have a system that brings it all together, okay? We're going to have some students who come Thursday, they're going to go in here to SCORE and they're going to start moving every single school. And we told them, move them all, get them all in the applying column. Well, what if I'm not applying till January? That's fine. We're going to send that transcript as soon as it's ready, and it's going to sit there for 3 months and wait for your application to arrive. Well, what if I never apply? Then they toss it. Like, we just want to get the stuff there, okay? So when we start explaining it that way, they're like, oh, I kind of get it. So they do not need anything from us to do their part. Nothing. Because application is fully their responsibility. This is our part, and then they have to request our test scores. When all 3 of these sections are at the college electronically, which is how everything goes, that is a completed application, okay? And you can track the status of all of that online. They can track their applications. They'll do that through the college. They can track everything leaving Central through SCORE, and they can go on College Board or ACT and see when their scores got delivered. You can track everything, okay? And that makes an application complete. All right. Frequently asked questions. This is a little bit of everything. Okay. And I'm just going to touch on these because you might be thinking them. So what happens after we apply? This is the big one. They get so excited. I got an application out. They run into our offices and it's a good feeling. We love when they come down and say, oh my gosh, I applied to these 4 schools last night. It was the best feeling. I was so nervous, but I just did it. I go, great. You know, watch the screen too. And they submit their first Common App. It's kind of cute what happens, but watch the screen. All right, so they submit an application. What now? Well, track your stuff. Did everything go out and score? Nope, not yet, because my deadline's November 1st and I applied on October 4th. Well, it's probably going to take a couple weeks, but it'll get there by November 1st. And remember, things are coming at all different times from different places. The bottom line is it's got to be there by the deadline, okay? So what do? They need to watch their email, because once they submit an application to the school's now the college is now going to start talking with them through email. Thank you for your application. Here is an applicant portal. This is super important. They cannot miss these emails with the applicant portal. So University of Delaware, here's your Blue Hen portal, log in. So what's this now? This is another account they have to create. Bookmark it. That's how they find out, is UDEL missing anything from me? Did they get my transcript? Nope, it hasn't left the school yet. So this is the tracking part of it, okay? This is also where they're likely going to log in eventually and find out their admission decision. Eventually, their financial aid package. That portal, you're kind of done with Common App. You submitted the app. You don't need Common App. Common App is just to apply. But now they're going to have this portal with the college that's going to tell them what they need to know. Okay, and now they're working directly in that portal, okay? So that's explained here in number 1. Number 2 is a huge one. They really start to panic when we get close to the deadline and go, the college says they don't have my stuff. They didn't get my stuff, but SCORE says you sent everything. Well, if SCORE says we sent it, and it's there. But if you take 60,000 applications times 10 documents per student, well, you do the math. That college is going to take a while to take in all that information and link it up to the different portals. They just have to have patience. SCORE is like our backbone. If SCORE says we sent it and it has a date, and they all have a date, we sent it. The college just has to do their part. Okay, a little bit more about order of operations and what's happening there. If they have Polytech teachers, all of this is the stuff we just get over and over and over. Someone outside of Hunterdon Central, that's a big one. A lot of our students do have someone outside of Central. How does that happen? Process is here. This is one that really took a lot of them, like, what is this thing? The SRAR, the self-reported academic record. The self-reported academic record is taken by about 35 colleges, okay? This is where students have to create an account, and they're going to know if any of these look familiar to you, your students applying to any of these, they have to, and I've talked about this in groups. I mean, they were writing. These kids were writing like crazy, and they're going to get all this, okay? The self-reported academic record, also known as the SRAR, is a place you log in, and you have to fill out a little form with all of your courses and grades in high school. You are transposing, you are self-reporting your transcript to this site. Okay, so look at the schools, okay, big universities for the most part. I told them today, and I'll tell you, they're essentially doing the work for the college. These are colleges that get tens of thousands of applications. And years ago, they came together and said, this is just a lot of transcripts. Well, maybe we'll come up with a site that makes it easier for us, and they all dump their grades into the same site, and we can read them all the same way rather than reading all these different high school transcripts. And the SRAR was born. It was born at Rutgers University. So that is it. So that's the SRAR. Number 7, a college has presented an optional supplement or essay. Should I do it? That's a simple one-word answer every single time. Okay. How do I get application fee waivers? That's all right here. I'm applying early decision. Is there anything extra? Yes, there's an agreement and SCORE you have to do. This explains it here. I want to apply. This is a big one. I want to apply to more schools. So let's say it's December or January. The list is changing. Well, what do? You do the same thing you did before. They get them in the applying column. They show up on the counselor's end as active applications, and we do the process. We get your stuff there by the deadline, okay? It's that simple. And then I talk a little bit about financial aid. We don't have a lot of time in our student groups this week to get into financial aid. And the reason is the focus right now, September, October, November, is really on applying. There's just so many applications, so many transcripts, letters of rec. There's so much happening in the counseling office with that. You're going to see about around Thanksgiving in December, we're going to start to push out scholarship information. And that's typically when they start coming to us anyway, because most scholarship organizations know they're so focused on admission applications, those high school offices. That is what we're focusing on now. We do have a financial aid night on October 10th. It will be virtual, not here. It will be fully virtual, so you can tune in for that. We have a speaker for that, someone from the financial aid profession. We have a page here on our website. And again, this entire document, that has everything the kids need to know will be on our website within the next day or two. And they're getting it. They're getting it on Thursday. I'll email it out to them, all right? So that is a lot. And questions may have come up, and I will absolutely take them at the end. I just have a little bit more content to go over with you. I touched on this quite a bit on the admission plans. Regular decision, very general. Regular decision is probably what, if you happen to go through the college process, you might remember back when we did it, you applied to a college and, it was loose. December, January, things weren't quite what they are now. That's regular decision. That might be a very good plan for some of your students because they're just not ready to embark on this right now. It's like, we just got back to school and I'm working and I've got a sport and I've got commitments at home, and applying in January is perfectly fine. Okay, so they can take their time with this process. Rolling admission, the sooner they apply, the better, because decisions are going to be going out. I just got an email today from Southern University. We released our first batch of decisions this week. I think there's some other Southern schools that we're releasing in late August because they went back to school much earlier. And that tends to make students feel like they're starting to live in a little bit of a pressure cooker, like students are getting in. No, that's in the South. We just got back to school 2.5 weeks ago. The ball's going to start rolling. They're going to start to hear classmates go, I got in, because it's rolling admission, okay? Early decision, we have the ED agreement they have to do. That's one school, that's a binding commitment. Less than 50 of our students will do it. Early action is much more popular. Non-binding commitment, apply earlier, find out your decision earlier. Again, if you're tuning in from home, there's a link at the bottom. You can type in your browser and submit questions. I talked a little bit about parental role here. We just ask for your support, but support them in a way that gives them the ability to do this. It's so important that they are in charge of the process. If you see mistakes start happening, they're missing things, by all means, get in there, swoop in, help out, but please talk to them about, hey, Mrs. N's designed a process for you that works. Just follow it. Let me know how I can help. You want to talk about this maybe one night a week, one day a week, just let me know. And again, you do what works for your family. And the financial aid process. I know that when we have our financial aid night in October, there'll be parents tuning in. This is where you come in, filling out the FAFSA. The FAFSA is the free application for federal student aid. It will open up in December. I have another slide on that. I talked a little bit about this, but I just want to re-highlight this. So Post-High School Pathways Week, November 18th to 22nd. Please encourage your students, or if you have friends that you've been coming up the ranks with here over the years and their kids are not college bound, say, hey, the counseling department's putting on some stuff in November. Make sure your student checks their email. Trade and technical schools, we're trying to have, we are having our very first responders fair with EMS, fire, police here, so people can look at those options. We'll have our military recruiters. We're going to have some gap year programming people here and different things throughout the week. And RVCC, we have a fantastic relationship with them. They'll be here a couple times throughout the year. Again, students get emails about this. College athletics, Division 1 or 2. Correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Homburg. She's our guru on athletics. If I say any of this wrong. Division 1 or 2 must register with the NCAA Eligibility Center. Division 3, schools can have different requirements, but I will say this, and Ms. Homburg might, we have had students go, I'm going D3, and all of a sudden a D2 swoops in and recruits them. They have to register, but those requirements are different by division. But Division 1 or 2 have to register. They're probably, if they're a recruited athlete, likely working closely with their counselor at this point to say, hey, can we check, make sure I'm NCAA eligible? We'll get their transcripts to NCAA and all of that. Okay. A couple reminders. So it is the season of schedule changes. So just remind your children and students watching and listening that if they do make any changes to their schedule later this year, like especially at the semester mark in late January, if they've already applied to colleges, we've sent a transcript that has courses they're intending to take in senior year, semester 1 and 2. They've also put on their application courses they're intending to take in senior year. that tells a college, this is what I'm coming in with. So when you come into semester 2 and you want to drop a class, especially an academic core class, you need to notify the college, because you're no longer going to come in with that class completed. And that could impact a decision that's under review or a decision that's been made. So please have them be very mindful about making those choices mid-year. Staying engaged, it's tough. Senioritis kicks in for some of these kids. They start to hear back from colleges in December and think, I'm in great shape. I have a couple more to hear from. And it gets tough keeping them focused, some of them, in second semester. Colleges absolutely will rescind admission offers. If we send out final transcripts to all colleges, wherever the student is going, we're sending a final transcript in late June, early July. And if the grades tanked and they weren't characteristic of what that student applied with, they're going to hear from that college. And in some cases, it could be as extreme as a rescinding offer. So they've got to stay with it all senior year, okay? A little bit more about financial aid. Financial aid, the FAFSA, free application for federal student aid, will open up in December. If you watched the news or heard anything, it was a messy, messy year with the FAFSA. The FAFSA, the government did an overhaul on the FAFSA last year. Typically, the FAFSA opens up on October 1st for you to fill out as a senior family for next year. So last year, with the new FAFSA, it took a little while, and it opened up on December 31st, because the government said, we'll have it done in 2023, and they made it by a couple hours, okay? And then it was January 24, it was February 24. I have seniors getting into colleges. I have seniors wanting to make commitments. I have seniors who still can't file the FAFSA because it was a mess. January and February and March ended up being 3 of the most hectic months I've ever had in this profession, because as I was supposed to start shifting to juniors, I had this mess with so many seniors who could not successfully apply for financial aid. And then we started getting through it, and the FAFSA worked out its kinks. Well, now we're up on May 1st, which is when they all have to make a college decision, and they don't even have a package. They have no idea how much money they're getting. So then colleges extended their enrollment deadline to June 1st. So it really drew out the senior year process of deciding so long, okay? But we got them off and running. And honestly, I think it probably impacted our data a little bit. I really think it might be, these kids, it got to May, June, I don't even know how much money I'm getting. I'm not even dealing with this. And I think that probably had a little bit of an impact, too, on our overall college matriculation. However, the government tells us different this year. They say it's going to be better, but it's not going to happen until December. So we thought we'd have access to the FAFSA in October. They're rolling out some different beta and testing and things like that, but I'm anticipating it's going to be December. We are still going to have our financial aid night Thursday, October 10th. It's virtual, so don't come here. There'll be some information sent to parents by our HC Communications with a link to join that webinar. Our speaker for financial aid night has been the speaker for 17 years. I found her my first year, and I've never let her go. She's the financial aid officer at Monmouth University, and she's fantastic. So Kristen Isaacson will be joining us virtually that night, and you can tune in from anywhere. When you fill out the FAFSA, starting in December, just remember, this is so key. You are filing the FAFSA for the 25-26 school year. Don't do the wrong one. People look at it and go, well, we're in the 24-25 school year. That's this current school year. You are going to file the FAFSA for what will be your child's freshman year of college. So make sure you select the 25-26 FAFSA. What can you do in the meantime? You can prepare your documents, make sure everything's in line from 2023. That's what you're going to need. But it's so electronic. I mean, you're going to be pulling in data from the IRS into the FAFSA. It really has streamlined. It was just kind of a messy process getting there. We're going to talk about scholarships a lot more in November, December, and moving forward. Again, focus right now is on applications. We have a pretty robust local scholarship program here that awards over $150,000 just from this local community, 200 in Central Seniors, and this room transforms in June, and we have a wonderful senior awards night giving out all of those scholarships. There's a couple things here on our school website your students can start browsing, but again, focus right now is on applying for admission. We will update all of this as we get closer to scholarship season, okay? And I think that's it. Wow. That wasn't bad. So we are at just about 7:45. We're going to take some questions. I'm going to actually turn this off so I can look at my my screen. If you are still watching us from home, know that I'm about to go in and look at your questions, and I'll try to toggle between any that might be here in the audience and any that have come in through our bit.ly link. So let me look at that and see, is there anything just from our audience right now that I can answer? Anything out there? And I will repeat them so everybody here and home can hear them. Go ahead. Mm-hmm. Sure. So the question was what we asked our students to do as juniors. Starting in January of junior year, we said, you need to approach two teachers and verbally ask them for a letter of rec. And many began that process. We reminded them a lot through spring. We met with them again in the right before the end of the year, and then another influx of requests. So up until this point, they just needed to have a verbal conversation with their teacher, and their teacher hopefully agreed to write. There was nothing else they really had to do up to this point. Some students would check in with their teacher over the summer. Maybe they got an email back. Some teachers have a mini questionnaire for students to fill out if they want a recommendation about their time in class. But up to this point, that's all they had to do. But to answer your question, so what if they put this request in SCORE now and the teacher says no? I will tell you, I don't think that's ever happened since I've been here. The teacher, if they agreed verbally to write the letter, they're going to write the letter. That's it. So if a student runs into an issue with that, I think it'd be good for them to see their counselor or me, especially if a conversation was had and the teacher said yes, and then the teacher, says, hey, I saw your request in SCORE, but I can't do that anymore. I could not tell you a single time that happened here in my years. So the follow-up, the official request in SCORE is successful, usually. I don't know any different. So all right, I'm just going to pull up here. Anything else in the audience here that I can answer? Yes, closest. Yeah. Yeah. So our SCORE account looks different, and I'm not going to get in and show you. So when we log into SCORE as administrators, as counselors, we get to see a whole view of basically what they're doing, but organized by deadline date. So we have a full, ongoing, real-time dashboard that has taken, and this is why we were using a different program for many years. SCORE is just so intuitive. It tells us in real time what's happening. So it'll link us to a date, November 15th, all these kids need something. December for all these kids, rolling and things like that. So we actually had our first year using this program last year. We learned a ton, and I think we're in really good shape this year. I mean, we have the team of 3 counselors here, Mariana Cordova working with our multi-language learners. One of our secretaries in the department helps on the back end a ton, and I'm kind of watching over it too. But the 3 counselors that serve the class, Caitlin, Ann, and Kim, are really the ones who are in that dashboard every day, seeing what's coming in for their caseload and starting that process. So we can, the admission type is not as important to us as the date, because it doesn't matter if you're EA, ED, regular, we're going to get it done by the date. So we can see it if we need to, but we are so focused here on who and when. When do they need it and who needs it? All right, let me jump over to my screen because there is quite a bit here in this spreadsheet. And I just want to see if there's anything that jumps out. Okay, so a couple things we definitely went over. How will the college get the students' transcripts? Through SCORE. Everything is going through SCORE. Colleges have a SCORE. They pull the data. They pull the documents we send. They attach them to applications. All right. Let me find a way to check off what I've answered. Can students do all their college applications via Common App and not on SCORE? Well, I hope so. The Common App is the pinnacle. That's what we want students using. If a college accepts the Common App and over 1,000 do, they should be using the Common App. The option to apply with SCORE should be your last option, okay? Let me take another one here. Did you just have a question? Yeah, no, the Common App is a website, commonapp.org. Yeah, so the Common App is a website. Our guide on how to fill out the Common App literally will take a student from application creation on how to fill out every section, how to add their colleges to it. In the Common App itself, you add schools to it that you are applying to. So it takes over 1,000, there's over 1,000 schools, and you will build your own personal list in the Common App of the schools you're applying to. But we have a very comprehensive guide that walks students through how to do that. Question? Yes. We are. Yes. The question was great, and I was so hoping someone would ask because I saw people when I said that earlier go, wait, that doesn't make sense. All right, so what was asked is, yes, you have to give a month lead time for let me repeat that. You have to give a 1 month lead time for teacher recommendation requests. So we do have a handful of students that have October 15th deadlines, and you're going, wait a second. It's September 17th, so we missed it. No, you didn't miss it. Last week, we put a survey out to the entire senior class. It's now been sent out twice, and I know they're doing it because we have a lot of responses to it, asking our seniors who has October 15th deadlines and rolling admission deadlines. We put this survey out every year within the first couple days of the school year. I talked about it standing right here in front of the entire senior class in a meeting last week, so they know about it. And I said the reason we do that survey is because October 15th is going to creep up on us really quickly. We, as a counseling group here, need to capture who those students are that have, number one, the earliest deadlines, and number two, whose requests are going to be coming in a little bit later than they should, solely because of when we open up our requesting system. So we know that there are students with October 15 deadlines. We're sharing that with the teachers. Hey, these guys are coming up, but you're not going to see their requests until about September 19th, 20th. And we're saying in our groups, guys, we turn this system on Thursday at 2:15. You have off on Friday. You have the whole weekend. If you have an October 15th deadline, you scheduled a date with SCORE this weekend. So get in there and make your request because we're waiting for it. The survey is not a request. The survey was a heads up, okay? So that's how we're dealing with October 15th. Yeah. All right, let me take one in here. Do I have a list of schools that are SAT optional? I do not, but fairtest.org does. FAIRTEST, fairtest.org. It's a phenomenal website. They do a tremendous job keeping the test optional list updated. Okay, let me see. There is a lot in here. Where can I find the testing schedule for the SATs and ACTs? College Board for the SAT, ACT for the ACT. Okay, if you complete the Common App, self-reporting your SAT scores, can you choose to go test optional? Oh, this is a good one. For some schools you're applying to. Okay, we talk about this a lot. So in the Common Application, there is a section called testing. My Common App guide talks about how to fill it out. This is a place where students can self-report their scores. This is about that $15 savings I was talking about earlier. So in the testing section of Common App, they can self-report their scores. Here's my best reading, writing. Here's my best math. This is my best SAT. They can also self-report their best ACT. If they've taken AP classes, they can self-report their AP exams. They put it in there. Now, there's going to be some colleges that want official score reports. They have to send them. So now all these scores are sitting in the testing section, but they're looking at their college list thinking, well, I'm going test optional to those 4, but I want these other 8 to see my scores. What do I do? There is a question asked by every single college in the Common App. So you have the main Common App, which has all these parts, and every college sees it. And then in the Common App, there's what we call the college-specific questions. Those are the questions you answer for each college, and only that college sees the responses. It's there where they're going to say if they're coming in test optional or not. If they're coming in test optional, the college is not looking at those SAT scores. It's that simple. So I tell students, always self-report your scores in the Common App, and then declare your test optional or not in the college-specific questions. This might sound really like I'm speaking another language. Trust me when I tell you, your kids know what I mean by this because they're all nodding their heads today. Yep, we get it. That was all in the Common App guide. So Yes, you absolutely can allow colleges to see your scores in Common App, and then you can elect to say, no, I want to be test optional, okay? There's a lot. I know I'm not going to get to every single one tonight. Please reach out to us if you have questions. Okay. Oh, will parents receive an email with the updated Hunterdon Central Common App Guide? The Common App Guide is on our website. There is a section on our website devoted to college and career. I'm going to be putting out to communications to update a few things on there this week. Keep an eye on it. But it currently has the Common App Guide, and it's going to have all of those procedures. That big, heavy document we went over tonight is going to be on there in a few days. So you guys can view all of that. But again, to ask your kids, hey, you're getting these emails. Let's talk about them, okay? My students said everything was so easy. Thank you. That's nice. We tell them, like, there's a lot of you, and there's just a couple of us. So if we design a process that's confusing, it's hurting us. It has to be laid out step by step, and that's exactly why it is like that. What else here in the audience? Anything else I can answer before we wrap up? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so we test APs in the spring. So if you're taking AP exams in May of 2025, you can share that on Common App, because in the testing section it asks, do you have past AP exams? Do you have future AP exams? Obviously, if you have future, the score part's going to be empty. Okay, AP exam scores. I recommend sending 3s, 4s, and 5s to colleges. So if you got a 3, 4, or 5, you are going to send AP scores to a college one time and to one college only. And that's going to happen in July of 2025. After you've graduated, any APs you're taking senior year have come out, and you know where you're going. Otherwise, you do not need to send official AP scores to any college during this part of the process. That's a big waste of money. Just report your scores on your Common App or on any of your apps. And then you're going to bundle. If you've been taking APs in 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, you're going to bundle it all next July, and you're going to send one official AP score report for evaluation of credit to the school you're going to. It's a good student question there. All right, I'll take one more, and then we're going to let you guys go way, way in the back. That is a great question. So that actually was part of, and I didn't go into detail with it. I think it was part of step 1. So here's what happened when and this is for those of you listening at home, the question was about email addresses and what to use. When they got their score account, it was always linked to their Hunterdon Central email. So some never changed it, but there is a place in score for them to add an alternate email address, and they should. If they are using a personal Gmail or a personal email for Common App or anything else in the college process, they need to give that email to SCORE. And SCORE has a place to add an alternate email. It helps documents link up. And also, I don't know if you noticed, but when I was moving colleges from following to applying, it's like, what date are you following? What admission plan? The last field was email address used for the application. They want to know, SCORE wants to know, what email address did you use for this application? Well, go into your Common App, upper right corner of your home screen, and see what email you used for your Common App account and pop that in there. This helps SCORE link documents up when they're sent from the high school to the college to the Common App. So emails can be whatever they want as long as it's something they're going to commit to checking every day. Okay? All right. Thank you all so much for being a great audience. Be in touch if we can help you, okay? Take care. Drive home safe.